So the last thing so far that I have completed is the enemy creatures in the databank. I am still working on light cones and relics and stuff, but I doubt there's much to read. I did note that for the characters, when you get them to level 80, there is a short story to each of them. So for every character that I have to 80, I might actually read these stories aloud for you guys as well, since you unlock them at level 80. And like, there's a couple that I don't have. If I don't have them, or I don't have them at 80 myself, I will look it up. I'll read it out loud for you guys as well, but I'll have the character itself on the screen for you guys to see, so you can see the character itself, unless I can't click on it, which I can, but then the story is missing, so you will have to just see this character, because otherwise I won't have all the story for you. And since, as you can see, I only have 42 of the 58, I am actually missing like quite a few, 16 in total, and there's a few new ones coming out soon. Okay, so for the databank enemies, I will start from the top and I will read down to the bottom. Some of them have similar parts to them, like the Antimatter Legion, Baryon, and Anti-Baryon have a short start to them that is exactly the same, and then the part that's at the end is different. So I will do it that I only read the different parts. For Baryon, their weakness is ice and wind. In order to prevent antiparticles from dissipating and annihilating normal matter, the Antimatter Legion created two types of miniature ion traps for transportation, collectively referred to as baryons and antibaryons. Baryons have basic intelligence and can clear the path according to the commands and summons of void rangers on the battlefield. Then for Anti-Baryon, their weaknesses are physical and... I forgot the name of that one now. Let me quickly check. Quantum. So physical and quantum. Anti-Baryon. As you can see, the start is the same until this part. Antibaryons have basic intelligence and can clear the path according to the commands and summons of void rangers on the battlefield, so it's just a different name at the start of that sentence. Then, Void Ranger, Reaver. The weaknesses, physical and lightning. Warriors yet to perish were recast in the Warforge and gained destruction's power. Antimatter completes their bodies and negative particles reverberate throughout their forms. Violently aggressive, they embody the will of destruction and are basic combat units of the Antimatter Legion, acting only according to their destructive instincts. As you can see, they also have two blades. Void Ranger, Distorter. Weaknesses, wind and imaginary. A Void Ranger that has successfully survived particle annihilation. The positive and negative particles in its body have temporarily achieved a strange balance, granting them more power than ordinary Reavers. Basic combat units of the Antimatter Legion. They possess some intelligence and are able to control Reavers within a small surrounding area. You can see the little particles that they have floating around them. Void Ranger Eliminator. Weaknesses, fire, ice and quantum. Bodies that continue to be corroded by the Fragmentum after death. While their vital signs have changed, they continue to carry out their orders to eliminate. Void Ranger Eliminators will mark enemies they hit, causing them to take extra damage when attacked. As you can see, their weapon is this massive cannon that they use, that's at the front here. Void Ranger Trampler. It's an elite unit, if I recall correctly. Weaknesses are physical, wind and imaginary. A product of the Antimatter Legion, utilizing the Warforged to recast and fuse remnants of fallen warriors and leviathans. Though relatively rare, they possess both the intelligence of a warrior and the power and mobility of a leviathan. Its screech can summon a large number of Void Rangers. They also use a bow at one point to attack. Charge it up, you need to break their resistance, and then the actual attack that was focused on an enemy doesn't happen anymore. Doomsday Beasts. Weaknesses, physical, fire, ice and wind. Using fragments of the Dusk Leviathan as the foundation and the weeping bones of thousands of the dead in the Warforge as the agent, the Antimatter Legion cast the Doomsday Beast. The resentful spirit's senseless obsession turns into a tangible hand, and the shadow of the old disaster conceals the heavens. The doomsday beast detains the will of all beings that are not at ease and have yet to die. Anger, mourning, or delusional joy, all is revealed, and all evil eagerly throb. The doomsday beast's core is a dark matter engine. Fantilia the Undying. Weaknesses, lightning, wind, and imaginary. She also has resistance to frozen and entanglement. The body born out of the ambrosial arbor by Fantilia, Lord Ravager of the Antimatter Legion. This flesh possesses the power of both destruction and abundance, a form that embodies the cycle of death and rebirth. It is also the first fruit born from the rejuvenated ambrosial arbor. That's the monsters of the Antimatter Legion. For the Fragmentum Monsters, you mostly encounter these in the second area, I think. Jarilo, I would think it was. Let me quickly check for you guys so you can actually see it. I'm actually in it, so Jarilo-VI is the name. As you can see, it's in the Databank enemy creatures. Fragmentum Monster. The Frost Spawn is the first one. Weaknesses, fire and wind. Ice resistance and frozen resistance makes perfect sense because they're made out of ice. Crystallized elements with only the simplest intelligence. It drifts in the fragmentum in the form of a bird releasing eerily low temperatures, freezing everything around it. Flamespawn. Physical and ice, they are resistant to fire and burn. Crystallized elements with only the simplest intelligence, just like the other one, only this one emits intense heat, burning everything in its path. Thunderspawn. It's a lightning resistance and shock resistance. The weaknesses are physical and wind. Same text, only this one is electricity, releasing thunderclaps in all directions. The wind spawn. Wind resistance, wind shear resistance. Weaknesses, fire and lightning. Same text again. It's a bird engulfed in twisting winds, raging on like a tornado. Mask of No Thought. Weaknesses, fire and quantum. Victims of fragmentum corrosion pierce together into one bizarre creature. Their numb faces forming a sphere without thought or emotion. Any part that was once human has since vanished. And as you can see, the things that are spinning around the orb are masks. Like faces. The Everwinter Shadewalker. Resistances are ice and frozen, and they are weak to physical, fire, and quantum. Shades that wander in the fragmentum after the arrival of the eternal freeze. It mimics the form of the Silvermane guards in a twisted manner. Fitted with the same uniformed armors as the Bellabog warriors, its skull is however replaced by an icicle of faceless ice. Everwinter Shadewalkers will swing their ice axe and slow their enemies in battle. I think axe is missing an E, unless it's done on purpose. Incinerator Shadewalker. Weaknesses, ice, wind, and imaginary, and they are immune to fire and burn. Shades that wander in the fragmentum after the arrival of the eternal freeze mimics the same things in the twisted matter, fitted with the same armor. Its skull, however, replaced by faceless embers. Incineration Shadewalkers will swing their fierce axe and burn their enemies in battle. Here again, axe without an E. It might be on purpose. Imaginary Weaver. Weaknesses are physical, lightning, and quantum. Strange beings that do not belong to this world. Passing through countless barriers, they arrive from the other side of the vast, dark, starry sky. Their bodies are like diseased branches, breaching into reality, using imaginary power to twist reality at will. And they have the yellow color of imaginary. Ice out of space. Weaknesses are fire, wind, and quantum. They are resistant to ice and frozen. A strange being that does not belong to this world, nurtured in the fragmentum brought by the Stellaron. It feeds upon this world's root structures to obtain energy. Its armor reflects the gloomy and profound starry sky. In combat, the ice out of space will freeze targets it touches. Then blaze out of space. Weaknesses: physical, ice and quantum, resistance to fire and burn. Same thing, only its armor burns with the blazing flames in the core of stars. In combat, the blaze out of space will incinerate anything it touches. Guardian Shadow. Weaknesses are physical, wind and quantum. A shadow manifested by the power of a Stellaron, carrying out the Fragmentum's unceasing will to expand. A living being of energy born from the projection of the desires of sentient life forms into the Fragmentum, akin to a pearl created from a single grain of sand. This energy wanders around aimlessly, acting only when executing the will of its master. Decaying Shadow. Looks almost the exact same, only the cloak is different. The clothes are a bit less detailed and they have a hat on. Weaknesses are fire, lightning and wind. A shadow manifested by the power of a Stellaron, carrying out the Fragmentum's increasing will to expand. See, same text. However, the desire that drove it has long since been twisted and distorted. It's also probably why they are called decaying and why their cloak is more damaged than the previous one. If you look at the cloak here, it's a bit more damaged. Frigid Prowler. Weakness are fire, lightning and quantum, and they are resistant to ice and frozen. A machine unit prowling in the Fragmentum. Undoubtedly, its monstrosity is not a human creation, but one that was born out of the perversion of the Fragmentum. Frigid Prowlers will attract Everwinter Shadewalkers and reduce its enemies' speed and ice resistance. Searing Prowler. Weaknesses: ice, lightning and imaginary, and the resistance to burn and fire. A machine unit prowling in the Fragmentum. See, same text as the previous one, only the Searing Prowler's attacks will deal extra damage against enemies afflicted with burn. And then Stormbringer. Weaknesses are fire, ice and imaginary, and the resistance to wind. So not wind shear, but only wind, so wind shear should still work. Monsters that have experienced corrosion as the Fragmentum expanded. They now have a more nimble way of fighting after the source of their power mutated. Stormbringers utilize the power of the wind to aid them in battle, enabling them to fire arrows more rapidly. Those are the Antimatter and the Fragmentum. I am noticing that I'm almost at 15. I'll read these, and then I will read the rest in other videos next. So Jarilo-VI specific creatures now. The Silvermane Soldier. Weaknesses are wind and quantum. A member of Belobog's Silvermane Guards tasked with leading the charge into enemy lines. Silvermane Soldiers' attacks will reduce their enemy's defense during combat. The Silvermane Gunner. Weaknesses: physical and ice. A gunner of Belobog's Silvermane Guards tasked with sniping at enemies. Silvermane Gunner's shot will inflict bleed on their enemies during combat. Which is the physical thing. If you use a physical character, they do a dot. That dot is called bleed. Silvermane Cannoneer. Weaknesses: physical, ice and imaginary. A cannoneer of the Silvermane Guards who wields a portable hand cannon into battle. During combat, Silvermane Cannoneers will launch brutal chain attacks with their allies. Silvermane Lieutenants. Weaknesses: physical, ice and quantum. The leader of a squad of Belobog's Silvermane Guards. Silvermane Lieutenants can raise a giant shield during combat and enhance themselves. Attacking a Silvermane Lieutenant with their shield raised will immediately result in a fierce counter. Vagrant. Weaknesses: ice, fire and imaginary. In order to survive, some underworlders are desperate enough to venture deep into the Fragmentum in search of anything salvageable. Ancient machinery that they dug up has become their best helper, which is most of the robots that we'll encounter. Automaton Hound. Weaknesses: physical and lightning. An automaton pieced together with old world technology. It looks like a transportation vehicle whose purpose has long been forgotten. In combat, automaton hounds can provide support and restore HP to its allies. As you can see, they look like a scooter. Automaton Spider. Weaknesses, lightning and wind. An automaton pieced together with old world technology tasked with replacing humans and performing the most basic forms of physical labor. In combat, automaton spiders are highly unstable, capable of exploding when damaged. Automaton Beetle. Weaknesses, lightning, wind and imaginary. An automaton pieced together with old world technology. A signal light is placed on its legs and the unit may have been used for mining or construction operations. In combat, automaton beetles can create force fields to shield themselves. Automaton Grizzly. Weaknesses, fire, ice and lightning. An automaton pieced together with old world technology. It has been reinforced with durable armor so it can charge forward and protect the Silvermane guards. In combat, automaton grizzlies will summon automaton spiders and unleash a powerful charged attack. Automaton Direwolf. Weaknesses, ice, lightning and imaginary. An automaton pieced together with old world technology. This rare type of humanoid automaton is equipped with a chainsaw on its right arm, presumably used for mining or construction operations. In combat, they will use their chainsaw to bleed enemies, dealing damage over time. Svarov. Weaknesses, fire, lightning and wind. He's one of the bosses that you fight. Control affects resistance, so you can't really control him. He's also part of Clara the character. An ancient relic from the old world. This was originally used as an automated control unit by the Jiromaro development group. Unlike the vast majority of machines that lack intellect and can only act on command, Svarog is capable of much more complex thinking. In battle, he summons mechanical arms to grab and control his enemies, delivering devastating attacks. Bronya. Bronya is the person that takes over control of Jarilo-VI. She's also a character that you can have that increases damage of your party members and also pulls them forward, for example, in the order list. Weaknesses are physical, fire, and imaginary. She is the successor to Belobog's guardian and commander of the Silvermane Guards. Bronya can use various tactics to attack her enemies and greatly enhance the battle prowess of all allies. Gepard. Weaknesses, physical, lightning and imaginary, resistant to ice and control effects. Captain of the Silvermane Guards. Gepard can command his soldiers to focus their attacks and provide each of them with a barrier that blocks one attack. Kokolia. She was before Bronya the leader of Jarilo-VI. Weaknesses are fire, lightning and quantum. She is resistant to physical, ice, wind, frozen and control effects. She's seen as a boss character. The guardian of Belobog and the undisputable ruler of the towering citadel. Belobog Kokolia possesses the divine authority passed down through the generations of guardians, giving her command over ice and snow to freeze her enemies in battle. She's really cool spears as well. Kokolia, Mother of Deception, her final form. She's the final boss version of her. Weaknesses are fire, lightning and quantum, and she's resistant to exactly the same: physical, ice, wind, frozen and imprisonment. After being assimilated by the overflowing fragmentum energy of the Stellaron, the Supreme Guardian transforms into a singer, able to control imaginary energy and a mouthpiece of its promised new world. That is the Antimatter Legion, the Fragmentum Monsters and Jarilo-VI. I will look into doing the Janzo, Swarm, and Astro together, and then Dream Jolt, Memory, and the Cosmos, and the other tab is just 3 characters, so I'll just fit them in with the Dream Jolt, Memory, and Cosmos, since Cosmos is also only like 4, so it's just Janzo is a lot, so I might have to see how long it takes for just the Janzo, but we'll see. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, or click the bell if you want to see when the next uploads come. I'm trying to do it weekly. After this, I'm going to do the characters after the databank finishes for the enemy creatures. I'll do the characters. There's also books and stuff that you can find in the world. There's also specifically for the Divergent universe and the simulated universe, there's lore in there as well. I'm trying to collect most of that right now, but I might not have everything yet by the time I'm filming those, but I really want to try and get them so you guys can have a physical example on the screen. For the characters, on the other hand, I will need to Google most of the information, since some of the characters aren't available anymore unless you get lucky to get them. For example, I only unlocked Clara via the new event where you could choose a golden character that I didn't have yet, so... But yeah, I'll leave it here. Thank you for being here. Leave a like. If you have anything that you know I might want to read as well for you guys, you can leave it in the comments. I hope you guys have a nice evening, and I'll see you guys next time.